Thanks for joining us for another episode of 6 Degrees of Separation in Sci-Fi and Fantasy. In this episode, we connect the 1973 sci-fi thriller Soylent Green to the HBO series that brought us the Mother of Dragons, Game of Thrones.
Dracarys.
The year is 2022, and the world is overpolluted, overpopulated with a shortage of food and water. Yes, this is our dystopian future, depicted in Soylent Green, which makes you wonder. Based off the book Make Room, written by Harry Harrison, Soylent Green tells the story of a murder investigation led by Detective Frank Thorne, played by the late Charlton Heston. As you can imagine, there are a number of disturbing things in this movie, like the lack of housing, the method of crowd control, and apparently, no AC.
Sweet Jesus.
And the murder. The victim, a chairman of Soylent Industries, is bludgeoned to death by one of the most polite hitmen.
They told me to say that they were sorry, but that you had become unreliable.
The company, Soylent Industries, supplies food for over half the world's population, with Soylent Red, Soylent Yellow, and Soylent Green.
The miracle food of high-energy plankton gathered from the oceans of the world.
I warned you.
During the investigation, Thorne navigates his way between the world of the haves and have-nots to discover the disturbing truth behind the murder, which gives us one of the most iconic lines of sci-fi and fantasy.
Soylent Green is people!
Early into Soylent Green, we get a glimpse of the first ever arcade video game, Computer Space, which was released in 1971 by Syzygy Engineering, later known as Atari. The game in the movie has a custom white cabinet, whereas the original colors are blue, yellow, and red. Now, taking us from one global disaster to preventing another is our first degree, Soylent Green's cinematographer Richard H. Klein. Richard started his award-winning career as an assistant camera operator in the 1943 The Return of the Vampire, starring the legendary Bela Lugosi. After assisting in over 200 films, he became a director of photography in 1963. Adding 46 films to his credit, including the 1971's The Andromeda Strain. Based off the 1969 novel of the same name written by Michael Crichton, The Andromeda Strain, for the most part, takes place in a secret underground state-of-the-art facility named Wildfire, which has extensive decontamination procedures and a nuclear self-destruct device. It's here a group of scientists studied a government satellite that landed outside the fictitious town of Piedmont, New Mexico. All the residents of this near ghost town are found dead with crystallized blood, except for 2. After studying the satellite and the survivors, they discover the satellite has brought back an extraterrestrial life form, which causes the deaths. The organism then starts mutating and triggers the nuclear self-destruct.
When the bomb goes off, there'll be 1,000 mutations. Andromeda will spread everywhere. They'll never be rid of it.
It was 1973's Westworld, written and directed by Michael Crichton, that was the first film to use CGI. Since Andromeda Strain was made 2 years prior, all the effects were made using old-school methods, like this 3D diagram of the facility. It was created by filming projected images of each floor that were then layered. The transparency was achieved by raising the camera while filming. The effects and use of picture-in-picture are just a couple of elements that make the Andromeda Strain memorable. And another is its music score, composed by our second degree of separation, jazz musician, composer, and artist, the late Gilbert John Mellé. Before the Andromeda Strain, Gil, already an accomplished jazz musician, composed music for TV shows and a TV movie. And throughout the years, he designed album covers for a number of artists, including himself. When it came to choosing a musical score for the Andromeda Strain, director Robert Wise didn't want the traditional orchestral music, which presented a challenge Gil enthusiastically took on. To accomplish the goal of scoring the Andromeda Strain with director Robert Wise's vague guidelines, Gil created the percussotron.
I'm Gil Mellé, and this is my instrument, the percussotron. How does a composer depict the sound of men walking on the moon? Or a satellite bringing an alien virus to the Earth?
After the Andromeda Strain, Gale continued composing music for a number of TV shows and movies in the sci-fi fantasy genre, including Rod Serling's Night Gallery, The $6 Million Man, Embryo, and a different take on Mary Shelley's classic, the 1973 TV miniseries Frankenstein: The True Story.
Directed by the late Jack Smite, Frankenstein: The True Story gives us the creature unlike any other adaptation on the big or small screen at the time.
Played by the late Michael Sarrazin, the creature is first presented as Dr. Frankenstein's perfect specimen worthy of socializing with the elite.
I'm afraid he speaks no English. Beautiful. Only a few words.
That one word alone will get him far.
But in time, the true nature of the creature starts to physically manifest, causing Dr. Frankenstein to hide him from the world. And when the creature realizes what he's becoming, or what he truly is, he tries ending his existence. Only he survives and eventually convinces Dr. Frankenstein to bring back to life a woman the creature has been infatuated with, played by Jane Seymour. Unfortunately, their relationship didn't quite work out. When shooting this scene where Frankenstein's monster bride is brought to life, a nude model was originally used. But because the water in the tank magnified the model's body, causing it to look much larger than Jane Seymour's, a plywood cutout was eventually used. Frankenstein: The True Story got rave reviews, especially for its special effects. A crawling arm that seemed to have a mind of its own got its interior mechanisms from our Next Degree of Separation Academy Award and BAFTA Award winner special effects technician Colin Chilvers. After losing his first job in the industry to nepotism on the 1968 production of 2001: A Space Odyssey, Chilvers went on to become an award-winning force as a director and special effects technician. And as a special effects technician, Chilvers worked on musicals like Tommy and the Rocky Horror Picture Show. But it was as director he brought the king of pop's famous lean and moonwalker to the world. And his work as creative supervisor and director of special effects on the 1978 Superman, starring Christopher Reeves, earned him a BAFTA and a Special Achievement Academy Award. And he continued his work in the DC Universe on the sequels Superman 2 and Superman 3. Now, Superman and Superman 2 went on to become box office hits, but Superman 3, well, it fell way short of its franchise expectations. Mostly described as campy with a poor storyline and lack of human interest, Superman 3 focused more on the action and not the characters and plot.
And even though the late Richard Pryor was considered a comedic genius and inspiration to many, he was thought to be miscast in Superman 3, only receiving the role because he mentioned how he was a fan of the previous Superman movies.
It states on the 1978 Superman poster, "You'll believe a man can fly." But as with the Andromeda strain, there are no computers or modern-day techniques for Chilvers and the special effects team to use in making Superman believably fly. But they did come up with several methods to accomplish this goal. One thing that gave Superman, or more accurately, Superman's cape, the illusion of flight was this device created by the special effects artist, the late Les Bowie. This motor with sawed-off fish rods was put under the cape, and with a little help from some wind, gave Superman's cape a life of its own. Now we take flight and soar onto our 4th degree of separation, the Battersea Power Station in London, England, on the south bank of the River Thames. Built in 2 stages between 1929 and 1941, this landmark occupies 42 acres and holds the title of the largest brick building in Europe. This scene in Superman 3 was filmed at the Battersea Power Station, which turned out to be the last production filmed there before it was fully decommissioned in 1983. And after being decommissioned, the Battersea Power Station went from one developer to another, and to another. And because of finances, loopholes, opposition to some of the plans, and other problems, it took years to bring the Battersea Power Station to a new life. As you can see, Superman 3 wasn't the only production to use the Battersea Power Station, or its image before and after its decommission. It was also used as a backdrop for the long-running British TV series, Doctor Who. Since its airing on November 23, 1963, Doctor Who has become a favorite for generations of sci-fi fans for 38 seasons. The Doctor, who's actually a Time Lord from the planet Gallifrey, travels through dimensions and time in the TARDIS, which is larger on the inside than out. And because of Doctor Who's ability to regenerate into a new body when their current one is harmed and unable to heal itself, there have been 13 main incarnations in the TV series, which also helps to explain the change in actors. Others have appeared in flashbacks and unseen incarnations in Doctor Who films and theater productions. In this 2006 episode, Rise of the Cybermen, which is a part 1 of a 2-part story, Doctor Who and his crew find themselves in a parallel Earth where the Battersea Power Station is a Cybus Industries conversion factory that alters humans into Cybermen.
What are they?
Cybermen.
Over its long run, Doctor Who has not only made a lasting impact on the world of sci-fi, but on the Oxford English Dictionary. Since being added to the over 370,000 words, now not just fans of Doctor Who will know what a sonic screwdriver, TARDIS, Cybermen, and Dalek all mean. As we know, not all of the Doctors are the same. With every incarnation comes a new personality and a sense of style. And to help bring that sense of style to the Doctor is our 5th degree of separation, Doctor Who's assistant, costume designer, and costume supervisor, Marnie Ormiston. In 1999, Marnie joined the world of sci-fi and fantasy to help give insight to Anakin Skywalker's journey to the dark side as costume workroom assistant for the Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, and in 2002's Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Then in 2006, Marnie moved on from the Star Wars universe to the Doctor Who's as a costume supervisor for 4 episodes including Rise of the Cybermen, and in 2007 as an assistant costume designer for 12 more episodes. When it comes to sci-fi and fantasy fans, nothing goes unnoticed or unemulated, including Doctor Who's wardrobe. Cosplay has become a way for fans to show their appreciation for Doctor Who and many other sci-fi and fantasy movies and TV shows. After helping to give the 10th incarnation of Doctor Who its own style of fashion, Marnie became a costume supervisor for the pilot of the 2008 British sci-fi comedy Clone. Clone, starring Jonathan Pryce and Stuart McLaughlin as the Clone, ran for only 1 season with 6 episodes. Deemed a modern-day Frankenstein, Dr. Bleckensop, played by Pryce, attempts to create a prototype super soldier clone that would eventually replace the voluntary military. Unfortunately, instead of ending up with this, he ended up with this. A soldier who was more likely to hug his enemy. And because of the Doctor's failure, the powers that be decided to kill the clone.
We've just run every test known to man.
Have you performed an autopsy?
Autopsy? He's still alive.
For now, but if I were him, I wouldn't make dinner plans.
Now on the run with the clone, Bleckensop tries to right his wrong by unlocking the super soldier memories deep inside the clone's brain.
We need to find the trigger that connects your implanted memories with your conscious mind.
If anybody wonders why Clone was never picked up for another season, they just need to check out some of its reviews. So, before we get into our 6th and final degree of separation, let's recap. Our first degree, Soylent Green cinematographer Richard H. Klein went on to battle an extraterrestrial killer in the Andromeda strain. Our second degree, the Andromeda strain's composer and percussitron creator Gilbert John Melle composed the soundtrack for Frankenstein, The True Story. Our third degree, Frankenstein, The True Story's special effects technician Colin Chilvers, who became director of special effects and miniatures for 1983's Superman 3. Our fourth degree, the Battersea Power Station in London, England, which was one of the shooting locations for Superman 3 and the backdrop for Cybermen Conversion Center in the Doctor Who TV series. Our fifth degree, Doctor Who Series 2 and 3 costume supervisor and assistant costume designer, Marnie Ormiston, was also the costume supervisor for the short-lived British sci-fi comedy Clone. Now on to our 6th and final degree of separation. Even though Clone fell hard under scathing reviews, a number of behind-the-scenes talent went on to work on sci-fi and fantasy blockbusters and highly rated TV shows, including our 6th degree, Clone's prosthetic and makeup artist, Adrian Rigby. UK native Rigby had a passion for makeup at an early age. In his teens, he created casualty simulations for first aid training for a local ambulance service. And after secondary school and working 8 years for the post office, Rigby went to college to follow his dream of becoming a makeup artist. His first break in the industry was a job as production assistant on the 2002 Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. And through the years, before and after his work on Clone, Adrian, as prosthetic makeup artist, worked on a number of popular movies and TV shows, including the adaptation of George R.R. Martin's series A Song of Ice and Fire, Game of Thrones. The story of Game of Thrones takes place after the Kingslayer, Jaime Lannister, assassinates the Targaryen king, allowing Robert Baratheon to take the Iron Throne and control over Westeros. And after Robert dies, those in hope of ruling from the Iron Throne causes death and destruction throughout the kingdoms and beyond. All the while, in the far, far north, the most dangerous threat to everyone works its way south to the kingdoms. Like with most sci-fi and fantasy shows and movies, fans are given an extra treat of hidden Easter eggs, and Game of Thrones delivers, especially for those who are Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings fans. Natalia Tena, who played Osha on Game of Thrones, also played Nymphadora Tonks in the Harry Potter movies. In this Season 1 episode, Osha is seen making brooms, a popular form of transportation in the Harry Potter universe. And when it comes to uncovering secrets, both Samwell Tarly and Harry Potter look for answers in the library's restricted area. And for the key, Samwell goes to the Archmaester, Ebros, played by Jim Broadbent. If you think he looks familiar, it's because Jim Broadbent played Horace Slughorn, a keeper of secrets in the Harry Potter films. And the Iron Throne, the prize of the game, said to be made of 1,000 swords, includes the swords of Robin of Locksley from Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, the Lion in Kingdom of Heaven, and Gandalf's in the Lord of the Rings and Hobbit movies. No matter how one feels about the way Game of Thrones ended after 8 seasons, there is no doubt its spin-off based off of the book Fire and Blood, House of the Dragon, scheduled to premiere in 2022, will draw millions of fans. So, until then,
remember, Tuesday is Soylent Green Day.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of 6 Degrees of Separation in Sci-Fi and Fantasy. And don't forget to subscribe so you can see episodes as soon as they're posted.